I'm going to give you 4 tips that you can use today in your funnel and make more money without spending $1 extra on ads. So listen up. If you're selling anything online, especially anything high ticket, meaning over $1,000, these tips will be especially applicable to you. Now, I get a lot of questions from the audience listening on the podcast and people on our YouTube channel. And I want to flesh out this question just because this is a very common thing that we hear in the direct response world. So I have somebody who asked, do you have tips for reducing declined credit cards on my merchant account with high transactions? I just put out an offer and people are buying, but many transactions decline due to potential fraud. So potential fraud could be potential fraud, do not honor, issuing bank declines. All this means is that your customer's bank is saying, no, this transaction is not going to go through. So I'm going to give you 4 quick tips of what you can do in order to increase your front end conversions within 24 hours. So first, if you have a US customer base, but you are not processing with a US processor, you will have some issues. So get yourself a US mid, or if you're selling to Europeans, then get yourself a European mid. Basically, what I'm saying is get a merchant account where your customers are. If a customer declines, you can offer an installment plan and try ticket sizes under $1,000. Now, another tip is check your MCC code. I talk a lot about MCC code. I'm going to link some episodes below that really discuss this at length. But your MCC code is your merchant category code. So check your merchant category code with your processor. And last but not least, clean up your current performance on your merchant account and you will see it pay off in spades. Now, let me dig a little bit deeper on all these points, but these tips and what I'm talking about right now will literally take you a day or so to kind of review and get things going. And we have seen by implementing these different tips, at least a 5% increase on front end conversions, and a lot more depending on where you're at in terms of your situation. Now, as I mentioned, if you have a US customer base and you do not have a US merchant account, for example, you have a Canadian company and you're selling to Americans, your Canadian merchant account will never perform as well as US merchant account. So there are some ways in order to get US processing. It's not super simple, but I'll link down an episode below that will really walk you through it. Same thing if you're American, you're selling to Europeans, you always want to have a domestic merchant account in the area that your customers are, because that will increase your conversions overnight. Also, it will reduce your fees, your processing fees. So get yourself a merchant account in the region that your customers are in. Secondly, try smaller ticket sizes. So if you have an offer that's $10K, for example, you might want to split this up in $2,500 chunks. If you have a $3,000 offer, which is a pretty popular price point, you might want to do 3 installments of, a hair under $1,000 will work really well, like $997. $1,000 starts getting into another realm of acceptance. So you could do 3 payments of $997. You can do this ideally month by month. You don't want to overcharge your customers, meaning you don't want your customers to get charged 1 charge per week, because at the end of the month, they're going to get their credit card statement and they will see all the charges one after another, right? Week by week. So you want to try to split it up to be monthly payments and under 1,000 if possible. And if a customer declines because of the messages that I gave you, the do not honor, the issuing bank declines, the flat out decline message or potential fraud or whatever the case is, you want to immediately present them with an option to do an installment plan and try again. You could also tell your customers to give their bank a call and allow them to accept the transaction. So obviously, if it's a higher ticket, the customer is more likely to want to buy this purchase. It's less of an impulse buy. So you can direct customers on your checkout page with a message, hey, please call your bank to authorize this transaction. And, you might convert a couple of more extra clients like that. Now, another thing, as I mentioned earlier, I've done quite a few episodes on MCC code, but I do want to mention again because it's so important and it's such an overlooked detail about your merchant account. So your merchant category code is a 4-digit code This 4-digit code identifies what kind of merchant you are. So for example, if you're selling magazine subscriptions, or if you're selling gas, or if you're selling groceries, all these carry a different MCC code. Now, if you are categorized in a high-risk MCC code, that means that your transactions will be scrutinized even further. So as the economy tightens, as people get more credit strapped, as banks start becoming less risk tolerant, you will see more declines if you are in a category that is considered high risk. Most merchants can be in a couple of different MCC codes. It's just a matter of which one was chosen for you. So step one is find out what MCC code you're in. Second, find out which ones could be applicable to you. And then 3, try to make a switch. So try to get a different one. If your current processor says no, get another merchant account. When you apply for a new merchant account, you can tell them what MCC code you prefer. And if it makes logical sense and you're selling that, then, there won't be an issue there. So do the best you can in order to fix this current situation. But if you are in a direct response category for your MCC code, you will likely suffer from higher decline rates than if you're in another category. So keep that in mind, and please check out my episode that I'm going to link below about MCC codes. Now, I always save bonus tips for everybody, and this might seem, a bit difficult to do, but you could clean up your performance on your current merchant account. So what I mean by that is if you send a lot of declined transactions to your merchant account, you're more likely to get scrubbed. You're more likely to get declines. So there's a couple of very easy ways to do it. If you're obviously connected to a gateway, and most gateways have some very basic fraud scrubbing. So for example, maximum number of transactions per card, maximum number of transactions per IP address, maximum dollar amount somebody can try to submit, and so on and so forth. These are very basic things, but what that does is that if somebody tries, for example, to buy your product and gets declined, and they're just incessantly trying, we've all seen the customers that have tried 30 or 40 times with the same card. First of all, you're paying a transaction fee for every single one of those transactions. Secondly, you are burning your mid. What you're doing is you're sending bad transactions one after the other, and it's telling your processor and and the bank that you're not paying attention to, scrubbing your transactions and trying to send them good ones. So clean up your performance on your current merchant account. It will pay off in spades within 60 to 90 days. If your approval ratio starts going higher because you send less bad transactions, when I say bad, meaning, repeat transactions that keep declining and so on and so forth, you will see that your natural approval ratio on your front end will go up. So there's a lot of tips and tricks on that. And I will do definitely I will do an episode shortly about that, but take a look at ways that you can clean up your performance. One of them being really going into your gateway and turning on some of the fraud checks so you can avoid sending too many declines. I hope you guys liked this episode. There's a ton more that I can say about high tickets and just kind of approval ratios and so forth. So feel free to drop me a line below. I'm always looking for questions. I'm always looking for participation from the audience. Feel free to send me any of your questions or anything that you'd like me to cover on the podcast. Thanks very much. Have a great day. Hope you found today's session valuable. If you have any questions for me or just want to connect, please feel free to visit my website, mariasparagis.com. That's MariaSparagis.com. I'd love to hear what you're working on, so drop me a line on any hot button issues your business is experiencing. And remember, don't worry about failure. You only have to be right once.